Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. Sad death of Norman Tebbit this morning, but it's making us reflect on how different things are now than in '84, was it, when that bomb went off? Because you will see where I'm going with this, because new research suggests that only half of 18 to 24-year-olds say that they're ready to go to work when they've left education.
So that means almost 1 million young people, they're not in employment, educational training, short for NEETs, which means so support that doesn't stop at the school gates. We need a national effort to ensure every young person can thrive. It's just ridiculous. What's the matter with these kids? Well,
this is my point, is because we're reading about the bombing. In fact, let's bring in our political commentator with young voices, Oliver Dean. Oliver, good morning to you. We're reading about this bombing of the Conservative conference in 1984 when Norman Tebbit's wife was so badly injured. The very next day, Margaret Thatcher insisted that the party conference carry on because there was a sense of we will not be defeated, we will go out, we will work. We cancel sports days now when the weather's too warm. So is it any wonder we've got a generation of young people who don't want to go to work because, frankly, they've been told by their education system, oh, life's a bit difficult, stay at home, stay in bed?
No, I think you're completely right. And firstly, good morning to you both. We saw with a report from the Centre for Social Justice just a few months ago about the rise of sick note culture. And I think that that's definitely playing a role, especially with 18 to 24-year-olds. But I think there's a bigger question that needs to be raised here, which is how 18 to 24-year-olds and young people more generally are approaching the idea of business, are approaching the idea of employment. We need to be able to tell young people and show young people the positive role that business can play in society, the positive role that employment can play. And I fear that a lot of young people are going through the education system and are being told that there are alternative ways of finding meaning, of, you know, having a good life. And we need to be championing business instead.
What is the alternative they could follow then?
This is the thing. I mean, it really is a massive worry. And I think what a lot of young people are being told at the moment is that, you know, grades are the only thing that matter. We've seen that 40% of 18 to 24-year-olds have never had some form of work experience. And yet employers are constantly asking for younger people to have more and more experience. And it's just this cycle, and it's really harming future generations.
But also, it's worth saying, this is the lockdown generation. These are the kids who didn't do work experience. I have a 21, nearly 22-year-old. I have a 16-year-old. The 21, 22, I'm only now realising quite what he missed in those years of 20 to 22. That would have been when he'd be doing work experience. And they had no opportunities to continue that developmental trajectory that generations before them had. What do we do to address that, Oliver? Because that does need fixing.
Yeah, and I think we need to be reaching out to businesses, we need to be reaching out to the private sector, and we need to be telling them that they need to be willing to take a chance on these young people. These are young people who haven't had the same opportunities as other generations. They are disadvantaged in that regard. And unless businesses see that, unless the private sector sees that, and they're willing to take that chance, then they're going to go through their entire adult life without the same opportunities as other generations.
What are you going to plan to do with your life, Oliver? Have you worked it out yet?
I haven't worked it out, but, you know, I went to university. I'm currently studying at LSE. And I think there is an idea that's ingrained in a lot of schools that, you know, if you go and do your A-levels and then you go to university, then you're going to have a well-paid job at the end of it. But the truth of the matter is that that's not the case for a lot of young people. More and more people are going to university. In fact, we're seeing record numbers of students going to university. And yet we've got an increasingly competitive job market. You know, people are going to look for jobs, and there are more than 400 people applying for a single position. And if things like your degree and work experience are going to play a role in determining whether you get that job, then more needs to be done to ensure that, you know, there is a level playing field.
And as much as I am frustrated by this generation who just seem to have a negative mindset, because it does seem to be, well, it's just too hard to get a job. I understand that. It can be very hard to get a job, Oliver. I think, you know, that's what you're saying. It's not just about the numbers, but it's about the fact that when they get to the end of the month and they look at their pay packet and they see how expensive life is as well, just to go out and have a pizza and a couple of beers with their mates, they might have had to work 6 hours to pay for that when by the time they've paid their taxes and everything else on top of it. So how it's so demoralising for the younger generation. How do they pull their socks up and just put one foot in front of the other?
But see, I think there's a counter to that argument, which is that it can actually be, in a sense, quite rewarding when you get to the end of the month and you see that paycheck and you've seen that the work that you've done has come to fruition and you've been paid as a result. And I'm glad that, there are organisations and charities that are actively promoting the role that business can play, one such organisation being the Jobs Foundation. And we've seen time and again that, if young people are provided with employment, are provided with these opportunities, then they're going to have better mental health, they're going to have more money in their pockets, which means that they can spend it more, which means more money in the economy, more money for public services collected in tax and so forth. And overall, the country is better as a result.
Yeah. OK, Oliver, fascinating. Thank you so much.
More young people like Oliver.
Oliver Dean there.
Good man.
Thank you.